carousel component. It's a pretty standard UI component found on a bunch of websites. Here's an example right here. Kind of has this scroll feature where you just scroll through like a list of items, like common places like on Netflix, like when you're looking for like shows or movies to watch. It basically just has this like little functionality, the arrows. You can just toggle through a list of items. So I'm gonna be building kind of a simpler version to start, and then I might adapt it to take into account like animations and transitions and stuff like that, so it looks better. But we'll just build like a more simple one for now, and then expand on it later if necessary. So yeah, this is kind of what I'm thinking I want it to look like. I want to have just this kind of like this item cell is just going to render whatever content you want to be per, I guess, like slide you would call it. Like I'm going to call like these, each individual one of these a slide. And then I'm just going to have like when you hover over the image and you kind of get close to within this area, I want this kind of faded out bar with like a chevron to be displayed to kind of indicate that you're toggling, but when you're not close to this, I want it to be hidden, so to speak. Something else I was thinking of adding maybe later on is like kind of like progress bar dots depending on what slide you're on. So I think you can't really see it here. Let me see if they have another example with this on this website. um, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, there's like those little like progress start dots to show you like what page you're on out of the total number of pages or something like that. Anyways, I might add that later as well. And then for the kind of like what I want to be able to insert in here, so of course you're going to need like an array of items. Basically, those are going to be your slides. And then I want to pass in like an item cell, which is going to be a component to that's going to take in one of the items and then render out um, what you want this content to look like within the carousel. And then I'm going to add this items per slide type of feature so that you can list more than one item per slide. And then just like common practice type thing, like with the item key, if we're using React here, so whenever we're rendering out a list of items, we want to make sure that we provide a key prop, so the virtual DOM knows when items are changing, and it can optimize its re-rendering. So yeah, this is just going to be this is going to just be a string, and this items is going to be an array of objects. So this string will represent a property within one of the objects in the items array that you want to use as the key for the rendered out list. So yeah, and then this is just kind of what I was thinking. If it was like an example with images, so to speak, so you could have like a common use of a carousel is to display like images or like movie covers or something like that. So I was just gonna finish off by making like an example and using some images to show the functionality of the component. All right, so I got it already. I got the boilerplate already hashed out here. So let's just get started, I guess. So I think the initial thing I want to do is I just want to make sure that I can pass in an item cell and it renders out, and then we'll worry about the toggle functionality after. So we can just call this. We could just give this a class name. We'll just give this a carousel wrapper. I guess we could just give it carousel wrapper. And we're going to be taking in a prop called item cell, and we're going to be taking in a prop called items. And basically what we want to do is we want to render out a list. So this is just something common in React. You're always going to be, anything in front end, you're going to be doing a bunch of list rendering. So I like to do it this way. Well, I guess it depends how large your component is. So a lot of the times, let's say you have like a large component structure, like your component's very large, you can render the list just like this, so to speak. You can render it just by doing coming in here and items.map, item, right? So you could put the map, you could put the map right in itself, so to speak. Right. You could put the map right in the component, like right into the HTML structure itself. But again, the reason I don't like doing this sometimes is, let's say your component is very complex and you have a lot of HTML contained within your component. This can just kind of like clutter it up, especially if you have to do a bunch of logic. Like, let's say you want to process this item, you want to perform something on this item before actually rendering out some sort of component or some sort of JSX for this map. There might be a lot of code here, and if you just shove that in your HTML structure, it might be harder to, I don't know, debug or navigate it, or change things in the future. So what I like to do personally is I like to just come over here and make like a variable, like I'll call it like rendered items equals, and I'll just do the map in here, so to speak. So yeah, so I'll do like items.map, and then I'll have this item like this, and then I'll just do my logic within here, and so it's like separated from the actual like HTML structure of the component itself, and then you can just render this in here by doing like rendered items, so to speak, right? And it's just, to me, this looks cleaner if the component was large. Now, of course, like I'm just starting off building this, so it's not like too large yet, but it could get large, right? So okay, and actually for sort of, why is this not? Oh yeah, it's like I have to call it like, don't I have to call it like this or something? Pretty sure, but let's just make sure this works. So over here in the story, I'm gonna pass in item cell, and we'll just do something super simple. So we'll just have something where it's like item, and this is going to be a function, and we'll return a div, and we'll just render out item like this. Or we'll do item dot value or something, and we'll just have a class name here, or we'll just add style, I guess, instead. It doesn't really matter. So we'll add style, we'll do some width, we'll do some boxes for now. We'll do like 300 pixels, height 300 pixels, and we'll give this like a background color, or I would just give it a border, actually. Border solid 1 pixel, and we'll do black. Okay, and then we need some actual items, so let's just make this, we need to make this an object. So I'll do value item 1, and then we could just copy paste this, boom, 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 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then if we come back to our carousel display name, what is this? Let's just carousel v1, and let's just save these. I'm not really sure. Value. Okay, so I might be, I didn't pass this in. Item. Like this, it should be like this, right? There we go. Alright, so now we have this, like, here's our boxes and stuff like that. So yeah, basically this is working as we desire, right? Because we're not actually rendering, like we applied no class. And this is just a cell you're passing in from here, right? So just pass in any component you want. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You can pass in any component to this item cell. Alright, so now that we got that done, we actually want to have, okay, let's develop this component like we were working in stages. I think it's like pretty good practice to develop a component in stages. So first, let's forget about items per slide, and let's just worry about rendering a single item per slide for now. So let's see, what we're gonna need is we're gonna need a piece of state to keep track, right? We're gonna need a piece of state to keep track of the current item. And I'm gonna store this as an index. So we're gonna have const, we're gonna do selected or we'll do current index, set current index. And you could make this name a little bit more I guess descriptive by doing something like current item index, I guess. We could do that just for best practice. So set current item index. So yeah, just you want to be pretty descriptive again with your variable names, because especially if you're working on a component library like I am, you might have other developers working and improving your components, and so if some of your components get pretty complicated, it's important that you name your variables to be very descriptive to what their functionality is, so that if I'm a new developer and I'm just opening up your component library for the first time, I can clearly understand kind of what's going on in the component before I really dive in and try to hash out the code, right? Just makes it easier for other developers, and even you after, if you haven't worked on it in a while, to come back and make changes and stuff like that, right? Okay, so what we're gonna have here is basically we're gonna have we only want items. So this is gonna be like items. So we're no longer gonna need this render items, since we're only rendering one item. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just come down here and replace this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do items dot, or okay, we don't need to do that. We can just come here, put this back. We'll refactor this, and always make sure that you're refactoring instead of just like changing names and copying pasting your change variable name. Like for example, if I went like this and then just copied it over, this would be wrong, right? Because let's say you had in your file there was a lot of this variable was referenced a lot. You would have to go through and find each reference. Now it's not too hard if you're doing like you're like control Fing and then replacing everything, but some people forget to do that. And so if you forget to change one of the names, then of course your code's gonna break. So it's easier just to use VS Code's like refactor functionality, and this will just automatically change anywhere this variable is referenced. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have items, and we're really just gonna pass in a selected item. So yeah, again, we don't really need this. We could just get rid of this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna have item cell, and our item that we're gonna pass in is just gonna be items dot current item index, right? And so we should use state is not defined. Let me just define that up here. There we go. Alright, so now boom, so item 1, right? So yeah, I mean we're starting off at index 0. Okay, now we need to let's add this kind of opacity effect um based on hover. So let's think about how I want it. Let's think about how I want this to behave. So I don't want it to. Do I want it to show up the moment you hover on here? Or do I want it to show up as you get closer? See, the thing is if I show it as you get closer, the user could get confused and like never realize that this is a carousel. If they never actually put their mouse in this sort of section of the element. But if I just hover over, it might look a little awkward. Then again, it's only like really small. It's only like a small fade. Like it's gonna be pretty opaque. So let's just do it on hover for now. Yeah, let's just do it on hover for now. So the easiest way to do this on hover is pretty much like you could do an on mouse enter and on mouse leave, and then like change the style. So first let me be more specific. I'm gonna make these things like two divs basically, is what I'm saying. They're just gonna be absolutely positioned within here. So let's just do that first. Let me just do that first. So these are gonna be two divs, and class name is gonna be class name is just what we call it. We'll call this like call this carousel sidebar. And what we need to do first, basically, is these are going to be positioned based on the sizing of this outer element. And the sizing of the outer element is going to depend on how many items are in here. So what we need to do is we need to wait for the initial render and then calculate the size of the outer wrapper, this carousel wrapper, and then position these sidebars appropriately after that's done. So this is a common scenario again. I did in the last vid. We're just gonna use a ref with the use effect hook. So I'll just call this wrapper equals use ref, and we're just gonna set up a simple use effect. We just want this to run. Now, ideally, this will have dependencies later on, depending on the items per page. Because if the items per page change, then or the item cell changes, that is another one too. Then this, in theory, the width and of this carousel wrapper is going to change if the item cell changes, right? And that's like pretty self-explanatory. Like here, if we change the width of the item cell we're passing in to make this like 100, right? 100. Now we have this. Well, now the sidebar, if we're absolutely positioning the sidebar over here, like when it was 300, well, it's not going to be contained within that. It's not going to look like it's contained within that element anymore, right? So ideally, we need to run this whenever item cell changes, and later on when we implement the items per page, we're also going to need to run this use effect, right? So anyways, let's just get back to this. So what we're gonna do is we need to, of course, we need to get the client bounding rect for sure. So we're just gonna pull some things out. Now we need we need left and right, pretty much, right? We need left and right because the others will automatically be positioned at the top. So we need left and bottom, or left and right, my bad. Left and right from here, and we'll do wrapper dot current dot get bounding client rect like this, and let's just console.log out our left and right. So let's see, what do we have? We have get bounding client rect. Okay, I never no, it's I never get the order of these right. It's either get bounding client rect or get client bounding rect, and I think it's this one. No? Okay, oh yeah, I never hooked up the ref, so I might have it wrong again. Hold up. Okay. I might have to, yeah, okay, it's this way. Alright. Maybe one day I'll learn which order it is. Alright, so here we go. So yeah, here we go. We have 0, which is the left, and what is this? The right is 1366. That's because it's extending the whole way, right? And we just need to make this, see, we need to make the width of this carousel wrapper min content, so and now we should be more appropriately min content. No, it's still large. Yeah, there we go. 0 and 102. So basically then what we should be able to do is we now have the left and the right. So we need to set up a state variable, of course. So we'll call this const sidebar inset. Okay, and we're just gonna need a top and a left and a right. So left initially be 0, and right will also initially be 0. Just need to define some default values here, just so we don't get a complaint when we reference them in the HTML that they're undefined or something, right? So what we'll do here is we'll set sidebar inset to be left is going to be left, and right is going to be right. Like this. We can get rid of this, and then let's just throw a carousel wrapper dot carousel sidebar. Let's just throw red for now, just to make sure that we have this rendering out properly. And then we'll just throw a style on here, and we'll have, oh yeah, we also need to position these absolutely this, and we need to make this position relative. Okay, so let's throw something down here. So this is gonna be our left one, so we just want this to be left, and then we want this to be sidebar inset dot left, and we need to add our ticks basically. Okay, there we go, like that. And then we need to do the same here, but this one is going to be right. Sidebar right. And of course the width is just, the height is just going to be 100%. guess we need a width as well. So the width, we're also going to want to calculate dynamically. So let's just make the width for now. Like, I mean, we're going to probably need to do some like min features, but let's just make sure this is like displaying first. So we'll just do width of like 10 pixels. And boom. So here's one. Oh yeah, it's actually. Oh yeah. This still has to be left. There we go. No, not really. It's got to be like the width. It's got to be like the width minus. Yeah, it's got to be like the width or something. Or no, what if we just do right 0? Yeah, I mean. Wait, I'm like super tripping. I don't need to do this at all. I'm like actually really tripping. I thought that made like the. It's got to be like what? What, do I have to make the right like this width? I think that's what I need to do, because I think if I do like 10 pixels. No. Oh no, it's good now. It's good now. I thought I was tripping, but it's good now. Okay, it's good now. Yeah, I don't know why I thought I had to do it that way. It's just 0 and 0. Yeah, we don't need this at all, really. Like, this is just gonna be 0 as well. Alright. Yeah. And we want that to only just show up. This will initially be hidden. So we could just get rid of this for now. It doesn't even matter. Yeah, it does not matter at all. We could get rid of this. Don't need this either. Alright, that's good. That's nice, so we don't need that. Okay. This works good now. Let's just make this bigger again. I don't like how it's looking weird. Alright, so boom. And we want this to initially be, I guess, like visibility is hidden. And we don't want it to be there. Hidden is fine, right? But we could do visibility hidden, so it's not there. And then we could just use the hover of like literally do this, like hover. Right, so then we hover over it. You have these bars right here that you can click on, right? Okay, perfect. That looks good. Now what we still need to do, I guess we're still gonna need this use effect. Let me bring it back. Because we need the width to understand what width we want to make this. So instead, we just want to refactor this. We want this to be sidebar width, but not really. We need to choose a max, and then if it's right, okay, that makes sense to me. So, but basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do somewhere it's like what I'm talking about here is we need to decide how thick we want to make this bar, right? So I'm thinking like we're gonna have a max width, because eventually if this carousel wrapper grows too large, we don't want to always do some sort of ratio of the overall carousel wrapper width. Like we always did 10%, but the width of the carousel wrapper was like 900 pixels. Then we're gonna have like 90 pixels on here, which is it's just gonna look like too large. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna look kind of goofy. So we need to pick like a max width for this bar, which is maybe gonna be like 30 pixels. But if let's say that the length of let's say if the width of the carousel wrapper is like, I don't know, maybe less than 300 pixels, then 30 pixels is going to be bigger than 10% of the width. So we want to make it smaller. Like maybe we want the minimum width to be 10%. Well, we want the width to be 10%, and then once it grows past like 300 pixels or something like that, we just always make it 30. So that would look like something like set. Right, so in this wrapper we're gonna have this, and let's just grab the width. And we're gonna set the sidebar width, and basically we're just gonna make this math dot min 30 or width times 0.1, right? And of course we need to then hook this up. So then we'll just say style is in here, and the width is going to be sidebar width in here. We do the same thing down here. And let's just get rid of this style that we had here. We can get rid of this. So that was 10 pixels, right? So boom. So what is this? The width of this thing is 300. So yes, these should be 30, and exactly right. But as I mentioned, if we make this width like 600, right, it should still be 30, right? It didn't grow. It's still the same, right? But if we made this thing like, I don't know, 100, right? Well, now they're smaller because 30 is bigger than 10% of the width, right? 10% of the width is 10 pixels. So kind of makes sense. I mean, I guess if this was ever this small, I don't know if you'd really be using it, so to speak. Like, in my opinion, like the min width of this should really be like probably about 300 anyways. Even this is a bit like large in my opinion, but we are going to be making this like opaque. So alright, let's find a nice like opacity. This, we're gonna have background color of like a gray, probably like a light gray, and we want the opacity to be probably pretty low, like somewhere around 50%, maybe even less than that, maybe like 30. Yeah, that's not horrible. I want it to be even lighter though, probably. So let's tone this down to like here. What does this look like? Yeah, that's like pretty. That's pretty good, but we can make this a little bit more. Could run this like maybe 40. Yeah, maybe 50. Yeah, this looks good now. So what we need to do now is, right, we want this to be, yeah, okay, this looks good. Actually, this looks good. Okay. So next we need to add, I guess, the functionality to scroll through the items, so to speak. So let's get that done. So we need to have an on click for these two. So we'll handle the click. We'll create a little function here. We'll call it const handle sidebar click, and we'll pass in a boolean value here just to like identify like what sidebar was clicked. So we'll do like is left, meaning like the left sidebar was clicked. So there we go. So fact, so what we're gonna do is if is left, then we have this, and then else we know it was right. Okay. So we have to do a couple of things here, right? So the first thing we need to do is we need to watch out if we click left too much and there's nothing else to click left or right on. So that is left is going to be decreasing the index. So we need to check if the index is 0, right? So we could check is left and selected set current item index is bigger than 0. Then we can effectively set this to be I guess we could throw in an else if here. Current item index. So if the current item index is already at, we need this to be less than items.length minus 1, right? So I think that should work out right there. And we could just pass this to our sidebars in the on-click handler. And we need to pass in true here. Pass in false here. Boom. Okay, so now click this 2, 3, 4, and if we look in the console, shouldn't have any errors by trying to over click, and we can go down here. What is this? This is weird. That's why we need to be like. Perfect. Okay, so now we have like this. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is, do we want to display the sidebars? Like, do we want to display, nah, I don't, I think we should hide this, one of the sidebars. Like, like, we'll hide this, um, we'll hide this if the selected index is 0, and we'll hide it if the item.length is 1. So, we'll go like, visibility. We'll ask the question, current item index. Right? It's no longer there. And then we'll do something similar for down here. Like this. And then we just need to check if this is equal to items dot length minus 1. Right? Boom. 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 Alright. That's pretty good. Alright, so next thing we want to do, so we pretty much have that fleshed out. Next thing we want to do is definitely have this items per slide feature be implemented. So let's start that next. So how this is gonna work is just add this, and let's just add the prop down here. Let me get some more items. Let me get a bunch of items. Let me get a ton. Or, I mean, yeah, another idea I just thought of, which could be interesting, is we could have two features for this carousel. So some carousels go round and round, right? Like, if I get to 4, the next arrow on the shit should bring me back to 3. You know what I'm trying to say? But some might not want that, right? So I guess we could later on add that feature to where you could just loop it, or it could just be you can't loop it, right? So, but first let's just continue adding this items per slide. So we got the items per slide here. Alright. So we got the prop. What we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to run. We can now add this to here. We're gonna need to run a use effect. Whenever this items per slide changes, or items. This needs to change on items too, in that sense. Well, no it doesn't. No it doesn't. No it doesn't. Well, it could though. It definitely could, because you could go from like that to that. So yeah, I guess it does need to change. Alright, so we're in here. What we're gonna need to do here is we're gonna set up like we're gonna have another piece of state containing the partitioned slides, the partitioned items is what I'm saying. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have we could just come down here. We'll have like const partitioned items. Did I spell partition right? I have no idea. Okay. And we'll just make this, it's going to be an array of arrays, right? So what we're going to have here is we need to create this partition items upon running. So we'll do like let temp and then we'll just loop through. So basically what we need to do, so we need to loop through, so we need to have an index, but do I want to, no, we need to do like, I think we just need to do a regular for loop. So I'll explain what the logic is here. Basically what I'm doing is, if I had like, let's say this is my items array. Right, so let's say this is my items array. So what I'm doing is I'm creating this index starting here, right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab index to, I'm gonna grab this index, and let's say items per page was 3. So I'm gonna grab index plus items per page, right? Like this, and I'm gonna perform an array slice, and I'm gonna be grabbing these, right? And so these 3 will be partitioned into their, this will be pushed into an array, into the partitioned items array state variable, and then the same will be done for these 3. So this would be this is going to be 2 times items per page, right? And these would be partitioned into their own array, and it'll repeat for the rest of the array. And then what we're gonna have is we're gonna change our current selected item index, or current item index, to current item partition, and that will be like this red group, this blue group, and then we will render out the red or blue group within the carousel wrapper. So that's what we're gonna do. So this is gonna be like, we're gonna push temp partition items dot push, and this is gonna be items dot slice. So we create a new array, and we're gonna start this at index, and we're gonna go to index plus items per slide. items per slide. Yeah, sorry, I called it items per page on the draw IO, but it's items per slide. And after this is run, let's just console.log our temp partitioned items. And come here, and we're going to need items per page, items, or items per slide, so to speak. Items per slide, and let's say this is 3. So see, we have 3 arrays, and look at 1, 2, 3 is in here, 4, 5, 6 is in here, and 7, 8 is in here, right? So works out pretty well. Yeah, so we have that, and then what we need to do is we need to have we're going to come back here, and we need to set this. So we're going to set partitioned items to be temp partition items. And then what we want to do is we want to, yeah, this is where I'll do my rendered. So I'll do const rendered items, partitioned items, and what we're going to want is we're going to want a selected. So we're going to come down here, const current item partition index set current partition set current item index equals use state, and this will be 0 this time. And then we just need to change a couple things down here. So this will just be like we're going to want if current partition index is greater than 0, set it doesn't matter. I was going to use a setter in here, but it really doesn't matter. We could get rid of this. And then here we're going to need to check if this, we're no longer checking items. This is going to be partitioned items.length. So that's the one that we could set this to be this, and then this to be this. And then we need current item partition index dot, and this can be array. So map item, come down here, return item cell, just call it as a function. Item is going to be item, and then we could come down here, we could get this rendered items, shove it in here, and should be working. Let's just check. Yeah, pretty much, bro. Now we are missing some width here. I wonder if that's because the order. Could exchange this with this. And then we can exchange this with this. There we go. There we go. This is still displayed because we didn't change this. Perfect. So now we have this kind of scroll feature going on. Alright, so that's pretty good. Got that worked out. Okay, next we could do the item key, because we're probably getting in the console right now the warning about key prop. So we could add an item key prop to this. So we'll just add Eric here, so we want sort of item key. And then in our rendered items, we'll have we'll have the item key here. If this is something, that we will make it item key. Or if not, we'll just use the index. Okay, I think I'm passing this key incorrectly with the thing, so pass. Okay, it works now. And then like you could pass in like an item key based on that, just to have a custom key if you have like an ID on your item or something like that. Yeah, we no longer need this. Okay, this looks good. This looks good. What is going on here? Alright, so now we want to deal with this. Now we want to deal with this issue of scroll, like the wrapping of the carousel, so it wraps around back to item 1. Doing some work on it, and yeah, I changed a bunch of things. So I got rid of the old way I was creating the partitions, and this way allows for the cycling of the carousel to work. So if you see here, I could just continuously press on the left here, and it'll just continuously cycle through the carousel of items, and it'll wrap around. So like 876, 543, 218, and just continues it, so it can go either way. And basically I'll try to explain quickly how I did this. It's a lot simpler than at first I thought it was simple, and then I tried to come up with a solution, and then it was like it got like a little bit complicated, but then I figured out like a simple solution again. So the idea for how I'm doing it is I'm basically storing a start index, which will be, I guess, the position in the items array which I will start the current partition from. So let's say the start index will start at default to 0, and our items per page, let's say, is 3. Then my first 3 items will be 0, 1, 2. And then if I click like the right sidebar, then my index will be updated to like 3, and then it'll be 3, 4, 5 will be the next, and so on. The issue comes when you're looking to like let's say this was my array of items, and let's say my start index initially was 0, so it'd be 1, 2, 3. I click the right sidebar. Now my start index is 3. But what if I click it again? Well, I can't. If I just add items per page to my current start index, then I'm gonna fly off the end of the array, right? Like I'm gonna end up over here, and my start index is gonna be like 5, and then it's gonna be like 6, right? So if my start index is 6, I can't start the partition at index 6. So basically what I did is I took this value, right? I took the start index plus the items per page, which in this case would be 6, and then I just subtracted that. I just took the length of the array and subtracted it from that quantity. So in this case it would be 6 minus it'd be 6 minus 5, because that's the length of the array, which would give me a start index at 1, which is exactly what I would want the next start index to be, right? Because it would be like 3, my items that would be displayed, my start index was 3, it would be 3, 4, 5, or sorry, 3, 4, 0, and if I clicked it again, I would need 1, 2, 3, so it makes sense that my next start index would be 1. And then it's a similar idea for when you're clicking the left sidebar to go in the reverse direction. So I would basically take let's say the current start index was 0. If you took the current start index and subtracted the items per page, we would be at a quantity of -3, right? So we're at a quantity of -3, and basically all I did was I took -3, and we want our actual start index to be 2, right? So I just took this quantity and added the length back to it, which would get us like 3, or again, or if let's say our start index was 1, it would be 1. We would end up at -1. If I add -1, if I start at -1 and I subtracted 3, I'd be at -2. So if I add 5 to that, I would be at 3, which is exactly what I want. Because if my start index was 1, the 3 items that would be displayed would be 4, 0, and 1. And if I decrease that, click the left sidebar, I would want my next items to be, if my start index was 1, that'd be 1, 2, 3 items displayed. And if I click the left sidebar, my items would be 3, 4, and 0, which is exactly what we would want the next slide to show. So I don't know if I explained that too good, but yeah, that's basically how it's working now. So it's just like, here's my current partition, which I'm parsing the items based on this start index, and I actually cleaned the code up like a decent amount. And I also removed the check to display these sidebars, because now, like, since it's wrapping, they'll always be displayed. Yeah, it's pretty much it. It's working pretty well now. I'm probably gonna come out with a second vid where I maybe use this with some examples, and then there's still a couple of things I want to do. I want to add the option to wrap or not wrap, so, which might be annoying because I don't think this solution I just outlined is gonna work if I turn the wrapping off, but that's fine. And then I want to have it so that you can actually see an animation of these things scrolling. So you see how it's just kind of like, you can't really see the scrolling of the carousel, you're just seeing the items being displayed update. I want it so that, like, as you click this, these 3 items move to the left here, and if you click this side, these 3 move to the right, and then these ones come from the left side into the view, right? So yeah, that's probably what I'll try to get done in the next video.